I want to talk about how to start off your sales calls. And this is for any industry, no matter what you're selling, okay? So we're going to talk about two main key points of the call. Now, just for an overview, if you study my sales process, it breaks down into the following sections. There's the introduction, which is what we're going to cover in this call. There's the information gathering phase, which is where you're asking the questions. That's called like the discovery. There's the transition, which is the bridge between the discovery and the pitch. There's the pitch. There's the committing phase, which is essentially the committing phase. We'll make another video about that. But the committing phase is essentially getting buy-in on the pitch and essentially the thesis of what's going on. And then finally, there's objections. So this video is going to cover the introduction, and the introduction has two parts, okay? It has rapport and it has frame. So we're going to cover rapport first. Now, let's cover some misconceptions. A lot of people think rapport is like, hey, we went to the same our high schools were rivals. Oh, like, how about those Yankees? Like, that's guys, don't do that, okay? People think rapport is required to close the sale, or rapport is one of the biggest things to close the sale, and it's really not necessarily, you don't want buddy-buddy rapport, okay? You might have rapport with the person who serves you your Starbucks coffee every day, but that doesn't mean if they ask you for money, you're just, if they came and asked you for $5,000 for some sort of business opportunity, you're probably not gonna, you'd be like, dude, we're friends, but I'm not gonna give you $5,000. So what you're really looking for is trust. And trust is not built in 1 minute in the call, guys. Trust is built through understanding the problem at a deeper, intimate level than the prospect understands himself, which you do mainly in the information gathering phase and even in the pitch a little bit. Rapport is really about a couple of things. Number one, we need to get in sync with our prospect, right? Like if you ever had a conversation, there's times where there's a good, if you ever had a really, really good conversation with somebody where you almost lost time, you got in sync with the person and there's a good rhythm to the conversation, right? So we need to get in rhythm. And the other thing we need to do as a high-performing salesperson is demonstrate we're a real human being. And I know that sounds pretty ridiculous, but like one of the first things prospects are gonna wanna know is this gonna be some sort of robotic, barely English-speaking person who's gonna run me through a process and a script, or is this like a real human being who can provide value to me that's going to be helpful, that is knowledgeable, that I can look at as a leader and I can trust in leading this call process? Those are the two things we wanna do. One, demonstrate you're a real human being and you're a person of value and you have an expertise, or at least you sound like the person who has an expertise, because we're not gonna be teaching anything in the first minute. And then the other thing is kind of getting in a natural sync. Okay, so here's how it goes. We say essentially, again, this sales call is when you already have an appointment set. So this is not a cold call. We'll have another training about that. Maybe I'll put it above here when we have it. But it's not a cold call. This is for an appointment. So maybe they book through ads. Now they're on your calendar. Maybe your outbound team set them up with you. So rapport is going to go like this. Hey, is this John? Hey, John, this is just Cole here. What's up? And John's going to say, just finished it on my last call. Now I'm talking with you. Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, just finished out a workout and dude, super pumped up and ready to speak with you. How's your week been so far? John's going, I've been busy. Oh, okay, cool. Is that a good busy or a bad busy? Oh, it's good, da, 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 da. And then you're going to say, great. Well, look, I know we have a little bit amount of time here. So are you ready to jump in? You got a clean sheet of paper, something to take notes with? And that essentially is going to end rapport. Now, let me break down a few things of what I said there. So first I said, hey, is this John? Okay, simple. John, it's just Cole. I just say my first name. And especially if it's an appointment, obviously I don't really have to say the company because like they know I'm coming, okay? I'm gonna assume they expect me here. I'm gonna say, what's up? They're gonna say nothing, okay? Or they're gonna share something from their life. Now, only thing I say in rapport is I just share something from my day, okay? So you could see, he's like, nothing's up, what's going on with you? I just say, nothing, man, just finished a workout, or I'll say, nothing, man, just ran literally to the minute on my last call. So a bit exhausted, but still super excited to talk with you. So I just share something from my day. And is that totally required? Not necessarily, but I like to do that. It just kind of brings them into my world a little bit and humanizes me. And then I say, been having a good week so far. Or if it's at the beginning of the week, I'll say, been having a good start to the week, great. And so essentially what we want to do is after that, been having a good start to the week or been having a good week so far, I'm like going to volley one thing to them. They're going to say something back to me. And even if it's like, yep. I mean, if they say that, okay, cool, I'm going to dive right in. Some people will be a little bit more chatty and they need to feel rapport. I'm personally not a rapport person. I'm like, let's just dive in. Okay? Some people need to feel a lot about that. So I just want to do one volley back and forth. Been having a good week so far. They say something. I say, oh, dude, that's awesome. Cool. Well, look, I know we got a limited amount of time here. Do you have a clean sheet of paper, something to take notes with, ready to dive in? Now, that phrase is key. Okay, first of all, I'm taking the lead and I'm demonstrating, hey, I'm leading this call, we're gonna get into this thing. But what's also very key is if this is an audio call, why say, do you have a clean sheet of paper, something to take notes with, ready to dive in, is because if they are driving, or if they are at the airport, or if they are at their kid's baseball game, which sounds ridiculous, but that's happened to me multiple times, what they're gonna say is they're gonna say, oh no, I'm actually driving. Oh no, I'm actually at my kid's baseball game. Oh no, I'm actually on a walk. Because what I want to assess within the first 30 seconds here is if they're in a buying situation. Because ideally, I want to sit them down and get them totally focused on me. And even if maybe they're at home, but they're walking around, or maybe they're, he's got his kid in his one hand, he's like, freaking making dinner with the other hand. And I might not be able to, I might just have to deal with it. It just depends on the situation. However, generally, I want to sit them down into a buying situation. And this helps me assess what's going on. If they're driving, then we have to make a call of if we're gonna reschedule, if we're gonna just go with it. And typically what I like to do is if we're driving, I pivot to a 2-call close. So I'll just go through discovery, and then I'll act like essentially our process is always gonna be 2 calls. So then I'll book the second call for the demonstration. I'll make sure it's on Zoom, because if they're on Zoom, they're likely gonna be on their computer. I'll ask them to specifically be on their computer. I'll ask them to have a pen and pad so they can take notes. That way when I have the demo, I know they're in a buying situation. I don't really like to just cancel right in the beginning if the person's driving, because the chance of you recouping that lead is very low. And I'll just tell you, for me, like, I'm so busy. Look, the last thing I want to do is take a sales call, okay? So sometimes I will take it when I'm driving, and that's like, look, I want to take this call, I'm driving. It's pretty much the only time I got. So what I want to do is, if it is a higher net worth and busier person, I'm going to go through discovery. I'm going to provide a little bit of insight. I'm going to drop a big hook, right, to get them interested so they show up to that next call for the demo. So that could be a whole nother video. I should make a whole nother video about that. Hey guys, we'll get back to the content in a second, but I have a quick favor to ask. We don't run any ads or really do a lot of promotions on this channel at all, but the one thing that would really help us out if you're getting value from this is if you could share it on your socials. So specifically sharing it on your Instagram story through a screenshot, or just pressing share and really sharing it on any platform. The main way we plan to grow this isn't through ads, it's through word of mouth. So if you're getting value, that's the one thing you could do. Make sure you tag me on Instagram at Cole Thomas Gordon. And with that said, back to the content. Now, one thing about Rapport is if, they start answering and you get really hesitant responses. So you say, hey, what's up? Good. Awesome, man. Well, yep, dude, super excited to speak with you. Just finished up my last call. You been having a good week so far? Yep. I'll say, okay, cool. Well, just to make sure, is now still a good time to connect? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm just really, really busy. I'm down. I'm ready to dive in. Let's do this. So if I get this hesitation, almost like I'm all of a sudden, even though they scheduled an appointment with me, a nuisance to the person, what I do is I'm gonna do this skeptical tone. I'm gonna say, oh, okay, well, is now still a good time to connect? Because what I wanna do is I wanna pull away so they have to invest back in. Does that make sense? Just a little nuance there. So that's part one. There's introduction, 2 parts. There's rapport, and then there's frame. Now with frame, essentially it's very, very simple. There's a lot of people who say, you don't need to frame the call, it adds sales resistance. Look, okay, for me personally, if I'm talking to a higher net worth individual who gets it, I don't always frame the call, all right? However, what I have found with 98% of prospects and 98% of salespeople is, number one, less sophisticated consumers, which is the majority of the market, they need to know what's going on so that they can kind of have a directed conversation. Number 2 is, I believe, for less experienced salespeople, framing the call is very, very important because it gives them a little bit more confidence and control. So I think framing the call is fine. Can you get away and be an all-star closer without it? Sure. So a lot of times I don't use it, but a lot of times I do feel like it's very, very important. So I'll say a couple of things. One of them I really like to use, this is my I'll use this with more sophisticated markets. So they'll say, yep, got my pen and pad, I'm ready to go, man, what's up? I'll say, awesome, dude. Well, I am definitely prepared to share with you a little bit what we have going on over here, especially as pertains to helping real estate agents scale up. But everything we do is all customized. So, opposed to getting into this, long conversation about, 900 things we could do, what I found is probably the best next step is, let me get a little bit of context on, your real estate business, your market, your current lead generation, and so on and so forth. And then that way I can share what the aspects of what we do that would be most relevant and useful to you specifically. The reason I like that for more sophisticated prospects is, a lot of times if you do a standard frame the call, they're gonna be like, it's literally gonna be like you said nothing. It's like always framing the call and they don't listen. It's like their brain conserves energy because they've heard this, it just recognizes a pattern and then it groups you in with all these other salespeople. So I like to say that with more sophisticated markets. If it's like, weight loss, it's very, very low sophistication. What I like to say is something along the lines of, gotcha. Well, what I really found to work best on these calls is first diving into the specifics of your health and also your weight loss goals and where you're at now, what you've tried in the past. And then based on that, if I think we can help, we can definitely explain a little bit about what we got going on over here and how that might be able to work for you. Or at the very least, we're super well connected in the space and I can point you in a better direction if that makes more sense as well. Is that fair? Cool. I like to use that one if I need a little bit of a stronger one for consumers, because sometimes consumers, especially opposed to business owners, without a strong frame, as Jordan Belfort would say, they can go off the Pluto, right? They can go on these rambles, they're just all over the place. So I kind of like to guide them of what we're going to cover. Now, key thing of what I said in both of those examples is, did I say anything about our program or our product? No, okay? Here's the thing. A lot of people will say, yeah, if it makes sense, in their frame the call, they'll say, yeah, if it makes sense, we could definitely talk about our program and how the investment, don't say anything like that. I learned this from Kevin Nations. He says, when you talk about what you do, until you get to the pitch, you wanna say what we have going on over here, right? I wanna keep it super vague. Because a lot of times, and this is just very subtle, but if you bring up, yeah, and then we can talk about our coaching program, that can prompt them to say, well, can you just tell me like how much is the coaching program? Or like I used to sell real estate agents. If you said, yeah, and if it makes sense, we can go into our coaching program and how that works. I guarantee with real estate agents, they hate coaching. They hate it. If you say that in your frame the call, they'd be like, oh, I thought this was kind of more of a done for you lead generation system. I'm not really interested in that. I don't want to waste your time. I can't tell you I lost sales because of that back in the day. So you want to say what we have going on over here and how it's helping real estate agents blank, right? High-end benefit and keep it vague. Now, here's the last thing we'll cover in this video. You end the frame the call by saying this very important phrase. So you frame the call, you say, is that fair? They're like, yeah, cool. Well, with that being said, probably our best place to start is, what would you say is, I guess, like the biggest challenge in your business, or like what's not working at the level like you truly feel like it could be or that it should? And you could say health, dating, but here's the key. A lot of people will tell you in sales trainers, that question's too invasive, right? Jordan Belfort talks about going from least invasive to like non-invasive to more invasive questionings. So it's like you're pace leading them. And I totally agree with that. However, the key thing is, my tonality with how I ask that question, I guarantee they will, if you ask it like I asked it, they will always tell you what their real problem is. Boom, right there. And the reason for that is you could see how I use, and this is, credit to Jeremy Miner, like he's the first person I saw do this. I use this kind of like stumbling, like I can't find, there's a word for it, but it's like stumbling, I can't find my words and I'm trying to figure out the right words to say. And then also, after I say biggest challenge in your business, and then I say what's not working at a level I truly feel like it could be or that it should. That essentially is like a softener. Because a lot of times, if you ask, let's say a real estate agent's another great example, they're just super tough, If you ask an agent, so what's your biggest challenge right now? Well, I don't have any biggest challenges, I just want to see what you got. That's what they'll say. And that's why a lot of people won't recommend questions like this. But if you frame it like I framed it, they will tell you that. Because, I tacked on that what's not working at the level it truly feel like it could be that it should. That little softener there is very, very key. Now, just in case you do get somebody who even you say that, which is very rare, if you say it with the tonality, you almost never get anybody who doesn't answer that directly. But let's just say you did. What I would say after that is I say, gotcha. And I just rephrase the question. I just say, so like, what do you feel like is like the biggest constraint that if fixed would allow your business to like 2 or even 3x from where it's at now? Or if they're a huge business, like usually I small business owners, so a 2 or 3x is pretty reasonable. If it's, maybe it's a $10 million a year business, I'll say, gotcha. So what's the biggest constraint right now that's keeping you from scaling further or keeping you from, experiencing another 20, 30% growth this year? That biggest constraint especially makes it, because, people who have big egos, they don't want to admit they have a challenge. Right? They don't want to admit that, oh, well, something's not working. So if you do constraint, that is very common in the business space, and people always know there's constraints and kinks in businesses and so on and so forth. So either one of those will help. But yeah, guys, that's the first part of the call. That is essentially rapport and that is frame. Hopefully, by the end of this training, you realize it's super simple. It's super simple. Like, you shouldn't overcomplicate this stuff. People, they lose sales more so for what they do here than they gain sales. This is not the reason why you're going to make the sale at the end of the call. This is more just like preventing you from doing dumb stuff and getting to the next stage and starting the call on the right foot. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you want the full sales process, we'll put a link that you can click on the screen.